Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where the shadows of the past come alive, revealing tales that are both chilling and captivating. If you're intrigued by unsolved mysteries and notorious crimes, you're in the right place. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on more spine-tingling stories like this one. Mysteries are not merely tales. They are windows into history's hidden truths, inviting us to uncover layers of intrigue and emotion that continue to captivate our collective imagination. Tonight, we delve into one of the most infamous and enigmatic cases in criminal history, the story of Jack the Ripper. A name that still echoes through the darkened alleys of London, shrouded in mystery, fear, and unanswered questions. Who was this faceless figure? What drove him to commit such horrific acts? And why, even after more than a century, does his shadow loom so large? His legend persists, a chilling reminder of humanity's capacity for both fascination and fear, and the enduring allure of the unknown. To unravel this mystery, we must journey back to Victorian London, a city alive with industry and innovation, but burdened by the weight of poverty, inequality, and desperation. The stage was set in the Whitechapel district, a labyrinth of narrow streets and dimly lit corners where the vulnerable struggled to survive. Whitechapel was home to an array of people, including immigrants seeking better lives, laborers working grueling hours, and women attempting to eke out a living amid dire circumstances. However, this district was also plagued by high crime rates, alcoholism, and a lack of proper law enforcement, a perfect breeding ground for chaos. Amid these struggles lay tales of endurance and resilience that were often overshadowed by the rising tides of fear and uncertainty. It was here, in the autumn of 1888, that terror struck. Over a span of just a few weeks, 5 women were brutally murdered, their bodies discovered in a state that shocked even the most hardened investigators. The police, the press, and the public were all drawn into the hunt for a killer who seemed to vanish as quickly as he struck. These were not isolated crimes. They formed a pattern so gruesome and deliberate that it left even seasoned detectives bewildered. The events would weave themselves into the fabric of London's history, forever marking the city's darkest corners and embedding fear into its very identity. What made Jack the Ripper so terrifying wasn't just his crimes, it was the taunting anonymity. Letters allegedly sent by the Ripper mocked the police, leaving clues and threats that only deepened the hysteria. These letters would go on to fuel the media frenzy, turning what might have been a grim local story into an international sensation. But beneath the headlines, the true horror lay in the details of his heinous acts and the lives he shattered. Each letter added an eerie dimension to an already grotesque narrative, amplifying the fear and confusion that gripped the city. But who were these victims? What were their stories? And why, despite the efforts of countless detectives and historians, has this case remained unsolved? Their voices, silenced by tragedy, deserve to be remembered and honored amidst the search for answers that still eludes modern minds. Every piece of this mystery demands careful consideration, not just of the crimes, but of the society that allowed them to happen. Stay with me as we walk the foggy streets of Whitechapel, piecing together the puzzle of Jack the Ripper, step by haunting step. Each shadowy alley and murky detail reveals a fragment of a story that continues to captivate the imagination of generations. It is in these details that history's echoes become unmistakable. To understand the magnitude of Jack the Ripper's crimes, we must first honor the lives of his victims, women who, Though often overshadowed by their tragic ends, each had their own stories. These women were not merely victims, they were daughters, mothers, and individuals with histories of struggle and resilience. Their lives reflect the harsh realities of Victorian London and help us understand the socio-economic conditions that made them so vulnerable. Each life lost was a testament to the societal neglect that defined the era, making their stories all the more poignant. The first known victim was Marianne Nichols, discovered on August 31st, 1888. Her body was found in Bucks Row, her throat slashed and abdomen mutilated. Nichols, like the other victims, lived on the fringes of society. Born in 1845, she was a mother of 5 who had fallen on hard times. Separated from her husband due to allegations of infidelity, Nichols struggled with alcoholism and relied on casual work and the unforgiving streets of Whitechapel to survive. On the night of her murder, she was reportedly turned away from a lodging house for not having enough money for a bed. Her death marked the beginning of a series of murders that would plunge Whitechapel into chaos. Her story illustrates the desperation faced by many women of her time who had few options and little support. Marianne's life sheds light on the broader struggles faced by the working class in Victorian London, where women often bore the brunt of systemic inequities. Her plight serves as a window into the grim survivalism that defined her world, a reality shared by many others whose voices remain unheard. Just over a week later, on September 8th, the body of Annie Chapman was found in Hanbury Street. The mutilations were even more grotesque this time, with organs removed in a manner that suggested chilling precision. Annie Chapman's life, like Marianne's, was marked by hardship. She had been married and lived a stable life until her husband's death. Following this loss, her health declined, and she too found herself navigating the perilous world of Whitechapel streets. Witnesses claim to have seen Chapman speaking with a man shortly before her death, a man who remains unidentified to this day. Chapman's tragic demise underscores the plight of many women who, through no fault of their own, were left to fend for themselves in an unforgiving society. Her death also highlighted the chilling deliberation of the Ripper, whose methods suggested a calculated and methodical approach to his crimes. Annie's story reveals the vulnerability and dignity of those often forgotten by history, shining a light on the harshness of survival in a society rife with inequality. The crimes escalated in brutality, but the killer's method remained consistent. Attacks in the dead of night, swift and violent, leaving behind a trail of horror and unanswered questions. Each murder seemed more grotesque than the last, escalating not only the terror, but also the public's obsession with the case. This terrifying pattern of violence etched an indelible mark on London's consciousness, embedding the case into the very fabric of its urban legend. On September 30th, the Ripper struck twice in one night, claiming the lives of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Stride's body was discovered first in Dutfield's yard. Unlike the others, she showed no signs of mutilation, leading some to believe the killer was interrupted before he could complete his grim ritual. Stride was a Swedish immigrant who had lived in London for over 2 decades. Known as Long Liz, she had been involved in a tumultuous relationship and was last seen talking to a man shortly before her death. Stride's relatively less brutal murder left investigators wondering if it was truly the work of Jack the Ripper. Her story speaks to the lives of immigrant women in London who faced cultural and economic barriers while striving to carve out a place for themselves in an alien city. Her presence among the victims highlights the diversity of the community affected by this grim chapter, adding another layer of complexity to the narrative. Catherine Eddowes, however, suffered the full extent of the Ripper's fury. Found in Mitre Square, her body was mutilated beyond recognition, with her face disfigured in a way that seemed almost personal. Eddowes' life story was one of resilience, despite adversity. Born into a large family, she had a history of moving around England in search of work and stability. By the time of her death, she too had been living on the margins, battling addiction and poverty. One chilling detail emerged from her case. A piece of her apron was found smeared with blood and feces near a message scrawled on a wall, which read, "The Juvies are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." This cryptic note added another layer of mystery and speculation to an already convoluted case. The message's meaning remains debated, with theories ranging from anti-Semitic scapegoating to cryptic taunts from the killer himself. Catherine's tragic end punctuates the deeper societal fractures of her time, her story serving as a reflection of a community in turmoil. The final canonical victim, Mary Jane Kelly, met the most horrifying fate on November 9th. Unlike the others, Kelly was killed indoors, and the brutality inflicted upon her was unparalleled. Her small room on Dorset Street became the scene of unimaginable carnage, leaving even seasoned investigators shaken. Kelly's background is more elusive. She was younger than the other victims, reportedly in her mid-20s, and had worked as a prostitute. Her youth and striking beauty added another layer of tragedy to her grim end. Her mutilation was so extensive that even her facial features were unrecognizable. This final murder, more than any other, solidified Jack the Ripper's place as a figure of terror in the public imagination. Kelly's murder marks a grim turning point where the killer's violence reached its apex, leaving behind a haunting legacy. Her room on Dorset Street stands as an eternal symbol of unspeakable horror, a stark reminder of the devastation wrought by unchecked violence. What drove Jack the Ripper? Was it a deep-seated hatred, a twisted desire for power, or was he simply a madman, acting on impulses that defied understanding? His motives remain a chilling enigma, offering endless avenues for speculation and fear. The questions surrounding his psyche continue to captivate both amateur sleuths and seasoned criminologists alike. To grasp the psychology of the killer, we must consider the cultural and societal conditions of Victorian London. The rapid industrialization of the era had created sharp divides between the wealthy and the poor. Whitechapel was a microcosm of this inequality, teeming with overcrowded tenements, rampant disease, and a desperate populace. The Ripper's choice of victims, women living on the fringes of society, highlighted a grim reality. These were individuals society had largely abandoned, making them both vulnerable and invisible. The haunting consequences of this neglect are still a topic of reflection today, a stark commentary on the era's stark divisions. Psychological profiling suggests that Jack the Ripper may have been a sadistic killer, driven by deep-seated rage or a need for dominance. The precision of his mutilations hinted at a level of knowledge about human anatomy, leading to speculation that he may have been a doctor or butcher. Others argue that his actions reflect a disturbed mind, possibly suffering from a psychological disorder that fueled his violence. Modern criminal profilers have suggested that the Ripper may have harbored a pathological hatred for women, possibly stemming from a traumatic personal experience. This analysis paints a chilling portrait of a killer who was as calculating as he was brutal. His actions continue to perplex experts, and challenge our understanding of deviant behavior, forcing us to confront the darker facets of human nature. The investigation into the Ripper murders was unprecedented in its scope, involving detectives, medical experts, and even amateur sleuths. Yet despite their efforts, the killer remained elusive. Inspector Frederick Aberline, one of the lead investigators, faced immense pressure to solve the case, but was hindered by the lack of forensic technology and the overwhelming number of suspects. The limitations of 19th century investigative techniques played a significant role in the case remaining unsolved. This failure marked a turning point in the evolution of criminal investigation methodologies, underscoring the critical need for advancements in forensic science. One of the most intriguing aspects of the case was the letters. Several were sent to the police and newspapers, purportedly from the killer himself. The most famous, the Dear Boss letter, first introduced the name Jack the Ripper. While some believe these letters were hoaxes designed to fuel the hysteria, others see them as chilling glimpses into the mind of a murderer. Another letter, the From Hell note, arrived with a piece of human kidney, purportedly from one of the victims. Though the authenticity of these communications remains debated, they added a sinister dimension to an already horrifying case. The letters transformed the investigation into a macabre exchange, escalating fear and confusion in equal measure. As the investigation progressed, the public became increasingly critical of the police force, accusing them of incompetence. The press seized on this discontent, publishing scathing editorials that further heightened public outrage. Some even speculated that the police were covering up for someone powerful, adding layers of conspiracy to an already perplexing case. The strain on the police was immense as they faced mounting pressure from politicians, the media, and the public to catch the killer. The interplay between authority and the press shaped public perceptions of justice during this fraught period, adding to the complexity of an already enigmatic case. Suspects abounded. Among them was Montague John Druitt, a barrister with alleged mental health struggles, who died shortly after the final murder. Another was Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber, whose erratic behavior and proximity to the crime scenes drew suspicion. Some theories pointed to Dr. Thomas Neil Cream, a convicted killer with a penchant for poisoning, or even members of the aristocracy, including Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria. Each theory added a new layer to the mystery, but brought us no closer to the truth. The sheer variety of suspects reflects the public's desperation to find a resolution, even as evidence remained elusive. The suspects' stories reveal broader societal fears and prejudices, offering a mirror to the anxieties of Victorian London. The role of the press cannot be understated in the Jack the Ripper case. Sensational headlines and lurid illustrations captivated readers, creating a media circus that both informed and misled the public. Newspapers often published exaggerated or unverified claims, fueling rumors and speculation. The press's involvement turned the case into a spectacle, ensuring that the name Jack the Ripper would echo through history. This sensationalism offers insight into the emerging power of media in shaping collective fears and narratives, a trend that continues in modern times. One of the most compelling questions is why the killings stopped. Did the Ripper die? Was he imprisoned for another crime? Or did he simply slip away, changing his identity and continuing his dark deeds elsewhere? Speculation continues to swirl, with theories suggesting everything from illness to emigration, as potential reasons for the abrupt end to his spree. Each theory invites more questions than answers, deepening the mystery and ensuring its enduring legacy. As years turned to decades and then centuries, the case of Jack the Ripper became as much a cultural phenomenon as a criminal mystery. Writers, filmmakers, and historians have all sought to unravel his identity, but the answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. Countless books, documentaries, and films have explored the case, each offering theories but no definitive resolution. This enduring enigma has cemented Jack the Ripper's place in the annals of history, a story that continues to intrigue and mystify. Modern forensic techniques have been applied to the case, from DNA analysis to psychological profiling. Yet, even with advancements in science, the identity of Jack the Ripper remains unknown. Was he a lone predator, a product of his time and environment? Or was there a deeper conspiracy at play, hidden in the shadows of Victorian society? The enduring uncertainty underscores the complexities of human behavior and historical inquiry, making this mystery as relevant today as it was over a century ago. For the victims and their families, the lack of closure is a stark reminder of justice unserved. But in sharing their stories, we ensure they are not forgotten, that they remain more than footnotes in a tale of terror. By remembering their lives, we honor their humanity amidst the horrors inflicted upon them, ensuring their voices resonate beyond the veil of history. The legend of Jack the Ripper endures, not just because of the gruesome nature of his crimes, but because of the enduring mystery. The foggy streets of Whitechapel, the blood-red letters, and the faceless figure have become symbols of fear and intrigue. These symbols serve as a reminder of the fragility of human life and the persistent allure of the unknown. Their resonance extends beyond the streets of Whitechapel, embedding themselves in global consciousness and culture. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through history. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about the world's most infamous mysteries and crimes, please like this video and subscribe to Mysteries and Crime. Together we'll continue to explore the darkest corners of human history, uncovering the secrets that still haunt us today. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, connecting past to present and bridging the gaps between history's shadows and our collective understanding.